Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. Welcome back to another episode about how I caught a glyph. And stay tuned, because you never know what you might hear. You know, not every creature that looks scary wants to hurt you. Some just need a chance to show you who they really are. That's the lesson I learned the night I met Webuzzar. It happened in the twilight fields near the waxflower glade. I'd gone looking for a glyph sighting reported by local farmers, something with wings, webs, and a sound like a lullaby sung through a kazoo. The description was confusing, but the feeling in the air wasn't fear, it was warmth. Soft, buzzing, gentle. I followed the trail to a clearing strung with glowing silk, delicate webs spun between branches and mushrooms like tiny hammocks. Nestled in the center of it, fast asleep, was him, Webuzzar. His body looked like the cross between a fuzzy bee and a fruit bat. Big, soft belly, rounded legs, and wings made of shimmering web that fluttered gently even as he snored. He had 2 long antennae, and at the tip of each sat a tiny dragon-like head, both curled up like sleeping puppies. His stinger glowed faintly, but it didn't drip venom. It glowed like a night light. I stepped closer. One of the antennas opened its eyes. It blinked, then it sneezed, and accidentally shot a puff of glittering goo right at my boots. The other head woke up and immediately sprayed a cloud of sleepy mist in the air like a reflex. I stumbled back, trying not to laugh. I expected a fight, but Webuzzar just rolled over and covered himself with the wing, letting out a high-pitched whimper. He was shy, so I sat quietly. I took out some of the sweet sap candies I carried in my satchel and placed one on the ground. After a few minutes, his head peeked out. They sniffed the air, they crept forward one tiny step at a time, and then they purred. He wasn't dangerous, he wasn't cursed or mean or engineered to terrify, he was just lonely, protective. A glyph, not born from anything. His engineering was just him being created by a couple of different creatures being engineered together. So, he wasn't made to guard anything like gentle things that no one else notices, like glowworms or forgotten dreams. He wasn't engineered to look after tired bees who got lost on their way home. But when I offered him my palm, he buzzed softly and curled his wings around me like a hug. One antenna head spit a tiny silk blanket. The other licked my cheek like he was happy to see me. I thought there was going to be more of a fight, but the minute I pulled out my glyph, Webuzzar let me catch him. I didn't catch him out of sheer will. I didn't catch him out of, brute force. I caught him because he let me. I didn't catch him, per se. I gained a new friend for my sanctuary. A few weeks later at the sanctuary. The more time I've spent with Webuzzar, the more I've realized he isn't here to teach or to serve. He doesn't follow rules, and he doesn't need to justify himself with some grand purpose. He simply is, and that is enough. I've watched him in the sanctuary for several nights now. When the lanterns dim and the world softens into quiet, he stirs, not because he's summoned, but because dusk is his time. He stretches his wings, threads of living silk that catch even the faintest moonlight, and drifts upward without sound. He doesn't hunt, he doesn't patrol, he just moves like a drifting leaf carried by night's breeze. Everywhere he goes, he leaves behind a trace, little arcs of glowing thread that sway like dream catchers in the dark. Mice curl up beneath them, moths rest in their glow. Children who wander too close find themselves yawning, unafraid, lulled into sleep where even nightmares don't follow. Some creatures in the wild build nests or shelters. Webuzzar, he makes resting places for anyone who happens to need one. I followed him once quietly through the wax-flowered glade. He wasn't leading me anywhere. He wasn't aware of me at all. He paused only when he found a patch of flowers that had bloomed. He wrapped them in his threads, humming in that strange buzzing trill of his, and by morning the buds had opened, not by magic, just by warmth, by protection. And I understood. Webuzzar doesn't carry the burden of stories or symbols. He doesn't mean anything more than the rustle of grass or the quiet ripple of water. But because of that, he means everything. Some beings exist to fight, others to guard, and others still to destroy. Webuzzar exists to rest, to hum, to weave. He is nature at its gentlest. I once thought monsters had to be tamed, defeated, or explained. But Webuzzar refuses all three. He is not a mystery to solve. He is not a danger to contain. He is life, simply continuing, soft and buzzing in the night. And somehow, in his quiet way, he reminds me that I am too. I hadn't even told Orion or Ling about Webuzzar yet, but I had finally worked up the nerve to tell them. I half expected them to scald me before I even opened my mouth, and well, they didn't disappoint. Professor Lang leaned forward, his eyes narrowing the moment I described the buzzing little glyph and its habit of hiding among the lantern light. Stelliferous, do you have any idea how dangerous it is to withhold discoveries from us? His voice was sharp, but beneath it I could sense genuine worry. Professor Orion sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. At least this time it was harmless. A lantern bug, not a soul eater, or a rift spawn. Those are class glyphs that you don't want to catch. Still, Stelliferous, you should have told us the moment you realized what you had found. Their words hit harder than I expected. I mean, I had been so proud of catching Webuzzar, of studying its patterns on my own, that I forgot the rule. We swore to share every glyph discovered for the safety of the team. Still, I couldn't help but notice the glimmer in both their eyes. Lang finally cracked the faintest smile. You did well. Webuzzar is a beautiful catch, and harmless enough that you've spared us another sleepless night of containment protocols. Orion let out a weary chuckle. Just promise us, Stelliferous, next time, no waiting. The glyphs may look whimsical, but their secrets run deep. Even a harmless one can teach us something important. I nodded, cradling Webuzzar's tiny globe between my palms. In that moment I realized their frustration wasn't anger at me, it was fear of losing me to the very mysteries we chase. And with that, I left Professor Orion and my crush, Professor Lang, standing there as I went back to my sanctuary. So back in the sanctuary, the warm glow of the pyramid's crystal lamps cast shifting light across the chamber. Webuzzar was buzzing around in restless circles, his tiny wings beating like the flutter of parchment in a storm. He kept dive-bombing Aura Beak, clearly trying to stockpile whatever strength he could. Aura Beak, however, was having none of it. With a sharp click of his golden shell, the glyph's duck-like beak curved into something almost smug. He invoked his signature move, Pharaoh. A pulse of golden energy erupted from the scarab, a ripple that bent the air like heat over desert stone. In an instant, Webuzzar was gently but firmly pushed back. His buzzing reduced to a sulky whine as he spun midair and landed in a mossy corner of the sanctuary. Satisfied, Aura Beak scuttled forward on his jointed legs, his shell gleaming as he curled up against me with surprising delicacy for such a formidable creature. He perched on my shoulder like a piece of ancient jewelry, come to life, his duck-like beak clacked once, almost like a warning to Webuzzar not to try again. Webuzzar's wings twitched and in indignation shot me a look that seemed to say, traitor, before curling into a sulky ball in the crook of the wall. I sat there for what felt like hours, the silence of the sanctuary wrapped around me like a heavy but gentle blanket. Time blurred, softened until all I could feel was the steady rhythm of my own breathing. My mind wandered down the endless hallways of memory, the laughter of childhood long behind me, the sting of betrayals, the small victories that no one else celebrated but me. Every triumph, every scar, every lesson seemed to shimmer in that stillness. For once I was thinking about what I lacked, or wasn't thinking, for once I wasn't thinking about what I lacked or what I had yet to achieve. For once I realized I was happy. The stone beneath me was cool, grounding, and the faint hum of distant glyphs in their rest was almost like a lullaby. Then out of nowhere a soft weight shifted at my side. Webuzzar. He scooted forward in his awkward, buzzing way until he pressed right against my leg. His fuzzy body vibrating with a gentle purr-like hum, his wings, usually restless, were quiet now, brushing faintly against me, as though he was afraid to disturb the fragile peace of the moment. I glanced down, catching the twin antenna heads peeking up at me with sleepy eyes. For a heartbeat, I almost laughed, but instead, I let the smile tugging at my lips linger without sound, and lifted my gaze skyward. Above me stretched the endless canvas of the heavens, more breathtaking than I'd ever allowed myself to admit. The twin suns burned with unwavering brilliance, painting the sanctuary in shades of amber and gold, while the moons kept the planet from being too hot. Their light intertwined perfectly with the three moons, which hung like silver guardians in their eternal orbit. They did not falter, they did not dim. The constant glow was neither day nor night, but something beyond both, a reminder that in this strange world, some lights never wavered, no matter how much everything else changed. The sight carved something into me, deep and quiet. Hope, maybe. Or the reminder that existence didn't need to be justified. It simply was. Webuzzar pressed harder against my side, letting out a centered trill. I reached down without thinking, brushing my fingers over his soft, fuzzy belly. The twin heads squabbled briefly over who got the attention, one nipping gently at my fingertip while the other licked me with its tongue. Their playfulness made my chest ache in a good way. They didn't need me to be perfect or powerful. They just needed me to be. From my shoulder, I felt a shift. Aura Beak stirred, the golden plates of his scarab shell glinting as he adjusted his perch. His duck-like beak clacked once, sharp and deliberate, like the cracking of ancient stone. For a moment, I thought I might scald Webuzzar again with that imperious aura of his, but instead he only nestled closer against my neck, curling his legs with surprising delicacy. His warmth was steady, protective, like the weight of an old crown that didn't burden but reassured. Together, the three of us watched the sky. The air was still, save for the faint buzzing of Webuzzar's wings and the occasional scrape of Aura Beak's beak against my shoulder, and in that stillness I felt it, the strange unspoken bond that tied us together. I was no longer just me, wandering aimlessly through the gates of this fractured world. I was part of something living, something greater. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't terrify me. It waited, and I would meet it, not alone, but with them by my side. I guess I must have fallen asleep, because when I woke up, the twin suns and the three moons were still hanging in their usual spot, and the stars, tiny, stubborn pinpricks of light, never fading. Time felt strange here. The sky never changed, never slept, never gave any hint of morning or night. It was a sky that had always been and always would be, suspended above the world like a perfect, untouchable painting. My neck ached stiff and sore from Aura Beak, who had somehow wedged himself against me in the night, forcing my head sideways into an awkward angle. I guess that was the only way he could get comfortable. Meanwhile, Webuzzar had curled up across my legs in a way that left me twisted like a pretzel, and every attempt to move only made the ache worse. When I finally managed to sit up, I accidentally toppled them both off me. They landed with a soft thud and immediately glared at me, eyes flashing with that I could only interpret as as what I could only interpret as indignation. What? It was an accident, I protested, rubbing my sore neck. Aura Beak's golden scarab-like eyes shimmered slowly, glinting in my unchanging light, or in the unchanging light of the suns and moons, while Webuzzar's tiny claws twitched as if plotting revenge. I swear I could feel the weight of their judgment pressing down on me, heavier than my own stiffness. Dragging myself onto the front porch, I had intended to start preparing the picnic, but Luna and her glyph and Zena and hers had already beaten me to it. The sight made me pause for a moment, marveling at how orderly and serene everything looked under the eternal sky. For luck, or maybe just for their own amusement, they'd laid out carnivora sandwiches stuffed with Gorgon cheese and Vespera fruit sandwiches for dessert. The glowing colors of the food seemed almost alive in the unchanging light, as if they too belonged to this timeless world. The strange mix of sweet and savory scents made my stomach rumble, despite the ache in my neck, and I couldn't help but smile. Aura Beak and Webuzzar, now perched on the railing, watching me suspiciously as I approached the table. I offered them a small piece of Gorgon cheese, and Webuzzar snatched it in a blur, devouring it before I could blink. Aura Beak merely tilted his head, blinking those shimmering eyes at me as if to say, do better next time. I laughed softly, realizing that even in this endless frozen sky, life carried on in little chaotic, beautiful ways. I sat down at the table, the glyphs hovering nearby, their soft movements casting flickering shadows across the ground. The twin suns didn't rise or set, the 3 moons didn't wane, and the stars never blinked out. But somehow, with this moment of shared laughter, food, and the warmth of friends, the whole world felt alive anyway. I picked up a carnivora sandwich and took a bite, and it was as if my body hadn't eaten in years. Every taste exploded on my tongue, sharper and richer than anything I'd ever experienced before. The Gorgon cheese had a strange, almost electric tang, like tiny sparks were dancing along my taste buds, and the bread seemed to hum faintly beneath my teeth, warm and fragrant as if it had been freshly baked just for me. My senses shot higher than they'd ever gone before, each flavor unfolding like a story I could feel in my bones. I could taste the faint shimmer of magic that lingered in the ingredients, a sort of hum in the back of my throat that made me shiver with delight. "Who made this?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly with awe. As I glanced at Luna and Zena, my eyes darted between them and their glyphs, who hovered nearby with satisfied little hums and soft clicks, like they knew exactly how extraordinary their handiwork was. Luna grinned, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "We worked together," she said, gesturing toward her glyph, Myrno, who twitched happily, his small rhino-like horn glinting under the eternal suns. "A little magic, a little luck, and a lot of Gorgon cheese." Myrno let out a delighted squeak and bounced in place, tiny feet tapping rhythmically against the porch floor. Zena's sapphire and ruby-striped tiger glyph, Ignazura, stretched lazily before circling the table, leaving faint streaks of glittering light wherever his paws touched. "And a lot of Vespera fruit," Zena added with a sly smile. "I think you're feeling it more than we expected." She winked at me, and I could see a mischievous glimmer in her eyes. I took a bite, and suddenly the flavors seemed to expand, filling my entire body. The Gorgon cheese tingled along my spine like 1,000 tiny sparks. The bread melted perfectly with each chew, and the sweet Vespera fruit slid over my tongue like liquid sunlight. The air around me shimmered faintly, as if the magic energy in the food had begun to reach out beyond the plate, twinning around the glyphs and me in a warm, gentle pulse. Aura Beak tilted his head, golden eyes gleaming, and a faint golden glow traced along the edges of his wings. Webuzzar twitched with excitement, the little spark in his claws flickering in rhythm with the taste that was coursing through me. I laughed softly, almost overwhelmed by it all, and leaned back in my chair, letting the warmth of the eternal sky settle over me and us. The twin suns and 3 moons hung unmoving above, their light steady, comforting, and strangely alive. Stars twinkled faintly between them, stubborn points of silver that refused to fade. And under that unchanging sky and the flavors, the laughter, the glyphs, magic, it felt infinite. For the first time that day, I realized that even in the world where time never moved and the heavens never slept, moments like this, small magic, utterly alive, could exist. I couldn't help but grin at Luna, Zena, and their brilliant, mischievous companions. This is unbelievable, I whispered, taking another bite and feeling the hum of the eternal sky. The energy of the food and the warmth of their presence swirled together like a symphony I could taste, see, and feel all at once. And let me clarify, guys, time on Nibiru does move. It's just the sun, the stars, and the moon never moves. It's the only thing that never moves. And with that, we have a finished episode. So, may the gods of Nibiru shine their light down on you. Stay cool, stay fresh, and stay bright. Never let your star burn out. Until next time, this is Stella Fair signing off.